So lots of blood in the streets today across many asset classes. It's been a very bloody Friday indeed. If you are a stock investor, we have the Dow, the S&P 500, the Russell, everything is down. We're down 3% in the NASDAQ in just a single day. And if you've been paying closer attention, you know that this downside didn't just start today. It's been going like this since yesterday morning, April 21st. So why is that relevant? Well, we've seen a lot of correlations between the equities and the cryptos, including Bitcoin Cash, but we are seeing some signs that they may diverge a little bit, Bitcoin Cash being no exception. So while we've seen all this bloody pullback action in the equities, we're actually seeing rallies in several cryptos, including Bitcoin Cash, which is up over 1% today. Ethereum Classic is over almost 2% up. Then I could go on. There's other examples as well. So this pattern is similar to what we're seeing across many altcoins, where you have our three waves up from our low that was on February 24th. Although in Bitcoin Cash, we actually have a double bottom on January 24th and February 24th, whereas Bitcoin and Ethereum and very few other altcoins have their low on January 24th. Most altcoins have their actual low on February 24th. So I think the better interpretation is that our true low is actually on February 24th. And again, we have three waves up. This is the 1 hour linear chart. And we have presumably completed a fourth wave down with a fifth wave to come. That is the primary pattern, but the downside action, the depth of the correction thus far does lend quite a bit of credibility to this red alternate pattern, which calls for us being in a second wave up with a third side downward continuation up ahead. For that to confirm, we will need to make a lower low than the low that we hit on April 11th, which was right around $291. If we break that and continue and break our $260 low from February 24th, that puts me solidly in the camp of red. That would become my primary pattern at that point, and it would more or less invalidate, well, not more or less, it would completely invalidate this yellow bullish pattern for any near-term upside. That would have us getting down to 230 to 216 relatively quickly with a very sharp pullback and a slow fourth wave bounce. And then we would ultimately fall down to about 193, possibly as low as 154. Those bottom side targets do coincide with the range we have on the big picture, which calls for a pullback to 185 down to as low as $74. So again, there is confluence between what we're seeing in the small picture chart, the linear chart, as well as the big picture logarithmic chart, which we're going to pay a bit more attention to momentarily. Otherwise, all hope is not lost. Again, the bullish pattern is still my primary. We need to see this thing tear relatively soon. So this could easily be an A wave with a B wave down with the final C wave to go for this fifth wave. Why would I expect a three wave rally? Because this is a diagonal as far as we are seeing, and diagonals do subdivide into three wave zigzag patterns. So you have an ABC, possibly some kind of an ABC down here, ABC up, ABC down. And if we are to follow through, it'd be an A, B, and a pretty explosive C wave to as high as maybe the 440 range, something like that. If I build up a Fibonacci extension based on what we have so far, based on the peak being here and a relatively deep fourth wave, well, it doesn't really tell you much, but definitely somewhere north of $400 would be ideal. If we do manage to break this high of 391 for our third wave and have some upside continuation, that is a very good sign. That means we have five up, and breaking that 391 resistance overhead immediately invalidates the downside setup for red. So that would be a very bullish development. Shifting back to our big picture, we still have our MACD divergence down here. It still holds. We haven't broken any supports. So there's nothing imminently bearish in Bitcoin Cash, unlike in our equity spaces. So we have our big first wave, and presumably we are completing a sub wave one within a larger third wave in diagonal fashion. If that is the case, we are counting the origin of this rally as December of 2018 with a 1, 2, 3, fourth wave complete, presumably, with a final fifth wave to come. Now, if we want to see this fifth wave materialize, we really need to see some upside action very quickly. When we look at this big picture, you can see that it's mostly ground sideways all this time. So again, we could actually count this as four waves complete in a diagonal. If that is the case, we need to see a sharp reversal relatively soon, get that fifth wave up. If not, this would easily count as an A, B, C up with a sharp drop to finish off our larger degree fourth wave or second wave, depending on how we interpret it. Now, just something to note here is that we do have presumably 5 waves down. We have a second wave up. While that is a bearish setup, there is a reason why I don't fully believe this to be an ABC up, and that's because when you take a closer look at this up on the 1 hour linear chart, you got a possibly a 1-2. There's no clear fourth and fifth wave. This really looks like an A, B, C up. So if that's the case, it makes it much more likely that this is actually a first, second, and third wave. Because in a C wave, you'd expect to see a 5-wave rally structure, which we're absolutely not seeing here for this point here. So it'd be a 1, 2, you'd see a third wave, fourth wave, and then a fifth wave up. So this is the same thing we're seeing in other altcoins, which makes me hesitant to get too bearish about what's going to happen. So again, in summary, we need to see some upside action relatively quick. If that does happen, I would expect to get in this green box relatively quickly with follow through all the way up to the over the $4,000 range. That's what I would expecting to see. We still have a lot to prove until then. As for your personal trading positions, I did mention my own strategy is that if we see downside follow through, I will very likely unload possibly 50% of my holdings in altcoins. And I may be putting some posts together for that, depending on how this materializes. I don't expect to be fully out because I do expect this crash to be relatively short-lived if it happens. So for many of you, if you've been hodling all these years, it may be best just to hold through this correction. And for a lot of you, it may actually be another buying opportunity. If we do hit the top of this box, I can't see us dropping too low. Maybe we graze the top of the box. That would be an ideal pullback from the high that we have already had. That is the 1.0 extension hitting the $1.185 mark. And if that happens, again, we would be so oversold. We'd see a very sharp reversal, which is what we've seen multiple times throughout Bitcoin Cash history. You see that here after the December 2018 crash, colossal parabolic spike. This looks like it took a matter of days to go from $74 all up to $228. We saw that repeat again back here on March 2020. The everything crash where we went from $138 to $282 relatively quick and on to $340 not too long after, within a few months. So again, you do your own thing, follow your trading plan. If you're going to hold, commit to it. Otherwise, have your plans ready to sell whatever allocation you plan to. Only thing I advise against is panic buying or panic selling. Don't freak out. Let the market unfold as it chooses to. Sometimes when it feels the worst, that's when we're about to have a sharp reversal, and vice versa. Remember irrational exuberance. I believe it was Alan Greenspan that said that. That's the other way around. So I'll have more updates. I will be out of town the next few days, so I may be a little bit slow putting out more updates on the coins. So subscribe anyway, so that you don't miss anything that does come along. And if you enjoyed my video, don't forget to give me a like. Till next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.